that he had put her head on a shelf and screamed at it for an hour, threw darts at it, and ultimately smashed her face in. He also cut her tongue out and her larynx and put them in a garbage disposal.
Tell me in a sentence who you are.
I'm nobody. I'm a bum. I'm a boxcar and a jug of wine. And a straight razor if you get too close to me.
Do you ever feel violent?
Yes, I do.
What do you feel like doing?
Killing people.
You still feel like killing people?
Yes.
Describe the feeling that you get when you feel like killing people.
Well, last March 11th, I was hallucinating, and I took a razor blade and I cut a man's throat.
Here in the hospital?
Here in the hospital.
Do you think you'd murder me, Joe?
Yes.
That's gruesome, Joe. That's horrible.
Yes, it is.
You don't blame me if I say I hope you never get out of this place.
I hope I never do either.
They called him the Iceman, a man who lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood, a devoted husband, a father of 3. But behind that ordinary life was a convicted murderer whose name would become one of the most infamous in American true crime. For decades, Richard Kuklinski claimed he worked as a contract killer for the mafia and murdered more than 100 people. But how much of that story was true, and how much became legend? Tonight we're separating fact from fiction. We'll examine the murders prosecutors proved in court, the undercover investigation that finally brought him down, the confessions that made him famous, and the claims investigators still dispute decades later. This isn't the Hollywood version. This is the evidence. This is the true story of Richard Kuklinski. Welcome to the Murder Podcast Show.
Heyo, welcome all you Murder Podcast Show fans. That's right.
Heck yeah.
Welcome to another fantastic Saturday evening here. Happy 4th of July, everyone.
Yes. Happy 250 years of America.
Yes. Howdy, folks. Howdy, David. How are you this evening?
I can help for a second.
We're already starting out, and Classroom Jackie needs help.
Uh-huh. It's stuck. My headphones are stuck.
She's got some headphone stuck issues over there.
It's pulling my head down because it keeps getting stuck on the table.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
Thank you.
Yeah. New guy. So, anyways, welcome to the Murder Podcast Show. I, per usual, am your host, also known as...
I am the architect.
That's right, the architect is what they call me. I didn't want to believe it, but hey, they do. Cake Maker, hello, welcome in, everybody. Alongside of me is my co-host...
Criminology, Chris.
Yes.
Hi, everybody.
Mr. Criminology Chris. That is right. He is happening. And alongside of Criminology Chris is the director of all of our social media.
Time to check my social media, y'all. To see who loves me online.
I love that.
Classroom Jackie. That's right. The director of all of our social media platforms. What was I going to say? Who knows? Anyways, our sponsors, per usual, Crafty Corner by Laura. Laura makes a wide selection of handmade crochet plushies, both cute and creepy, animals, pop culture, fantasy, anime, and horror. They also specialize in custom orders like the Voodoo Doll and the other various custom orders we have throughout the studio here. You can follow them on Instagram at the.crafty.corner.bylaura. And as I always tell you, there's 3 dots in there. Figure out where the hell they go. It's not my job. Our next sponsor we've had for a couple of weeks now. It's not the sponsor. Do you need quality automotive repair and maintenance you can trust? Visit Mr. Wrenches of Akron, LLC. They are conveniently located across from Derby Downs at 1175 George Washington Boulevard in Akron, Ohio. They offer fast service, friendly customer care, reliable repairs, honest and professional work. Whether you need routine maintenance or repairs, we're here to help keep you on the road. By appointment or walk-ins are welcomed. And when you call them, give Gage a call today or stop by the shop. So thank you, Mr. Wrenches, for being one of our newest sponsors here on the Murder Podcast Show. We do appreciate it. Next, we are going to go ahead and jump over to Classroom Jackie's 1 minute of murder segment.
Classroom Jackie's 1 minute of murder.
All right, guys. So we had a little bit of growth, not very much this week, just a few people here and there, but we did hit 44 people finally on Instagram. We grew by
Hell
one.
yeah! Hey,
So we're aiming for 44.
Yeah, that's
45.
it.
45 would be cool if we hit that. That would be great.
I don't know. My favorite, number is 4, so I kind of like the 44. But
44 would be cool, but we already had
I
that.
still don't even know what Instagram is.
I don't know. Everybody
don't
says
use it.
Everybody says it's the greatest platform for promoting, but I'm not having the greatest luck on it.
It's
Yeah.
pictures.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's all
So-
it really is.
Our Facebook, we are at 167 followers.
Hell yeah!
Our YouTube is at 663. We are 3 away from 666.
Oh yeah! I think that'd be great too, because
Especially with our hashtag
Murder-
MurderShow66.
Exactly. See?
Come on, guys. Help us out. We need 3 more by the end of the show. Be awesome.
Yeah, create fake YouTube accounts now.
Do it. And our TikTok is at 2,426.
Hell yeah! That's right. We are cruising. We're
Just
cruising.
going.
Which brings me to my next point. As I always do tell you guys every single show and every week, please, if you have not already subscribed and shared our YouTube channel here, please do that. Click the good old subscribe button and the notification bell down there. What that does is that will let you know every time when we are about to go live, which is usually every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, for the moment you've all been waiting for. Tonight, we are going old school again. It's been a little while since we've gone back in the archives and gone old school here. Been covering a lot of newer stuff lately. And we are going to a guy that was in the mafia, Mr. Richard Kuklinski, also known as the Iceman. And let me get this guy up there for you. This guy, putting it lightly, is a friggin' trip. He's a trip. He's a trip. We've got video footage and all kinds of stuff we'll show you guys tonight that shows that this guy is nuts. I mean, you can even see it in his eyes right there. He looks like a typical mafia dude right there,
He just looks like a killer.
So anyways,
I know you always say that when you look at somebody and they can take on that persona or whatever, but honestly, I don't know. I look at the guy who looks like a band director or something like that.
Oh my god.
He
Could you imagine?
it's like a band director.
I mean, he just looks like a normal guy,
He was probably a trumpet player.
He doesn't look terrifying or anything like that.
David looks like Jesse
Ventura.
He
was a wrestler, and then wasn't he a mayor?
He was governor of Missouri, wasn't he?
I don't know.
I don't
David,
remember.
Governor of Missouri, I believe.
David, let us know. David, thank you for being the number 1 fan in tonight's episode so far. That's what that little purple number 1 crown next to your name is. We appreciate you, Mr. David.
And Cake Maker's number 2.
Governor of Minnesota.
Governor of Minnesota.
I knew it was somebody. It was one of those M's.
Minnesota.
Maybe he's vicariously living through him?
Oh.
I don't know. Never know. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and dive on in. It's you first, isn't it?
No, it's you.
Oh, I get to start out with the long speech.
Yeah.
So if you've watched any documentaries over the last 30 years, chances are you've heard the name Richard Kuklinski. He's become almost mythical in true crime. His nickname alone, the Iceman, creates an image of someone completely emotionless, cold, calculated, untouchable. But today's episode isn't about repeating the myths. It's about examining the evidence. Richard was convicted of multiple murders and sentenced to multiple life terms in prison. After his conviction, he interviewed multiple times, and some of that we'll play tonight too, in which he claimed to have murdered between 100 and 200 people and to have worked as a contract killer for organized crime. Many of those claims have never been actually,
Substantiated.
Okay. And investigators remain divided about how much of his story was true.
That's something we want to make clear from the beginning. Richard Kuklinski was unquestionably a convicted murderer. But when you hear claims throughout today's episode, we'll distinguish between what's documented in court records and investigations and what comes solely from his own statements, because those are not always the same things.
So, Richard Leonard Kuklinski came into the world on April 11th, 1935 in Jersey City, New Jersey. Let's see. America was still struggling through the Great Depression. Jobs were scarce. Families lived packed together in apartment buildings, old apartment, buildings. Violence inside the home often remained hidden from public view. Richard was born into exactly that. I mean, I couldn't even imagine being born in through that.
No.
His father, Stanley, or Stan, we'll call him Stan, worked for the railroad and was widely described as an abusive alcoholic. His mother, Anna McNally, was a deeply religious Catholic, but according to multiple family accounts and Richard himself, she was also physically abusive towards her children. Richard would later describe growing up in a household where punishment wasn't, occasional at all. He pretty much, expected every day to get some sort of abusive, whether it's beatings or whatnot towards him. Whether every detail of those later stories accurate is impossible to know, but multiple sources have consistently described his household as violent and abusive.
One of the most disturbing stories connected to Richard's childhood involves his older brother, Florian. According to family accounts repeated for years, Florian died after suffering a brutal beating from their father. The family reportedly told authorities that the little boy had fallen down a flight of stairs. Whether every aspect of that account can be independently verified today is difficult, but Richard repeatedly pointed to Florian's death as proof that violence wasn't simply part of his childhood, it defined it. Imagine growing up in a house where fear dictated every decision, where home wasn't a safe place, where the people meant to protect you became the greatest source of danger. That doesn't excuse what Richard Kuklinski would eventually become. Millions of abused children never become killers. But understanding the environment he grew up in helps explain how violence became normalized from his incredibly young age.
So school was actually his time to kind of get away from all of that and get a little bit of
Normality.
yeah, that's just it. Richard was described as a shy, withdrawn child. He struggled to fit in, which is one thing that I think we learn about a lot of these, people, is that most of them struggled to fit in. They were kind of outcast.
Yeah, they kind of maybe had like an anxiety or or some sort of social,
Yeah.
thing that they had as a kid. Yeah.
God, now I worry I have anxiety.
I
Oh,
know.
anyways.
Yeah, I was kind of
Oh,
quieter in school.
yeah.
Whatever.
I wasn't good in school though, like, some of these guys were. He was bullied by kids that lived around him, which, God, I know too well about, bullying back in the day. Later in life, he claimed that those experiences fueled an intense hatred towards people who picked on him, challenged him. Again, we have to be careful. Many of these details come from him, himself, who proved that throughout his life that he was capable of God, you gave me all the big words today.
Exaggeration and embellishment.
Yeah, you gave me all the big words. See, this is what happens. He puts his shit together. I don't know why I'm looking back here like there's somebody back here. Hey, how you doing, camera? You're doing pretty good. Maybe it's that one up there. Hey.
You feel there's like a ghost or someone standing behind you today?
I sure
keep
as hell.
looking over your
I sure as
shoulders.
I do. I sure as hell hope not. I don't know what's going on. All right, too much iced coffee.
Too much coffee.
Still, investigators and psychologists who interviewed him agreed on one point: he grew up in an environment saturated with violence. That's right, violence. That much appears well supported.
As Richard entered his teenage years, something began to change. I got tongue-tied for a second. He stopped seeing violence only as something that happened to him. He began using it himself. Years later, he claimed that as a young teenager, he killed a neighborhood bully after enduring repeated abuse. According to Kuklinski's version of events, the confrontation escalated beyond what he'd intended, and afterward, he disposed of the body in an abandoned area. There is no independent evidence confirming this story, and no homicide has ever been definitively linked to the alleged incident. It's one of many examples where his own narrative has to be separated from documented fact.
Whether that specific murder actually went down, exactly how he stated it, one thing is clear: by the time Richard reached, adulthood, manhood, his pee-pee dropped. Violence had become his preferred solution to conflict. You've got to add some, and there I am looking behind me again. You've got to listen. You hear me? You've got to add some. Okay.
I think he's going a little crazy today.
I'm telling you, I don't know what the fuck it is. I took my meds.
It's way too much iced coffee.
David, a website states that Richard had committed his first murder at 14. If he was caught, then what do you think the police would done back in 1949? I don't even know. I don't know how a lot of that law enforcement ran back then, so I couldn't even say. That's a really good, thing that we could look up and look into, though.
But like what we stated, there is no definitive proof that he actually killed somebody at 14 because there was no record of it.
True.
Like there was no documented missing kid, especially if it was a neighborhood bully, you would be known.
Based on hearsay, and back then, I mean, you don't have. I mean, everything that we use today in DNA, all that stuff was I mean, it was a far cry from the invention of or the study of any of that. Like, there was nothing to track that. Like you can look back and see if there were missing kids in his neighborhood or something like, but what else do you do?
Yeah, they couldn't check, DNA, fingerprints, all that kind of stuff then.
Right.
That wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah, unless they found the body and saved it or exhumed it later on or something like that and found something. But I mean, at that point,
it could just be him trying to boast too.
Right.
And make himself sound like, I started when I was 14, because
exactly.
To him, he thinks that's cool, look
and
at me.
Knows? Maybe he did. I mean,
I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me because we've covered quite a few cases now where they started killing. Their first, victim was 14, 15, somewhere in there. So
and it
wouldn't
speaks
surprise
to his
me.
Personality later on down the road because, like it said, I mean, this guy is just is ice cold, man. I mean, he's just there's no feeling
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When you guys see
on this dude.
when you see how he talks, he sounds close to who was that we have in the beginning? You know, opening clip.
Oh, is that
The
Joe or whatever?
shoemaker.
The
Yeah,
shoemaker,
Joe.
Yeah.
He talks like Joe did. I
Hey.
mean, you know, except for licking his lips and saying he wanted to kill right now. But
Yeah.
friends would later describe him as an intimidating, even before investigators knew who he was. Standing well over 6 feet tall and weighing nearly 300 pounds as an adult. He had an imposing physical presence. People noticed him, and many were, you know, afraid of him. But despite his frightening appearance, the life he would eventually build looked surprisingly ordinary from the outside. He married, he raised kids, bought a home in. Sounds like a helicopter landing in the backyard.
Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. I knew that it was going to land.
Yeah. Waiting to see whether it was there yet.
Tonight's Pick on Me night. 2 neighbors. He looked like a hardworking family man. No one could have, you know, imagined what later on they were going to find out about him. He was so nearly 6 feet tall, 300 pounds. I was thinking of, you know, Kemper, because Kemper was 300 pounds, but he was 6'9". That's a dude.
He was a big boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kemper,
6'9".
I wouldn't mess with any of them.
So, look, I read. I get to read again.
Hey.
Yay! Go Tinky.
Yeah. By the late 1950s, Richard had, you know, entered adulthood. I'm not going to say it again, though, what I said before. Unsafe. Welcome in. Welcome in.
Welcome. Hi.
And at first glance, he looked remarkably ordinary. He met a young woman named
Barbara.
Well, yes, but I was trying to not butcher the last name.
We're just going to call her Barbara.
Barbara P., who was working as a secretary. The two married in 1961 and would eventually have 3 children. Merrick is a different name. I've never heard.
That's cool.
Yeah, Merrick.
Merrick like Derek, but with an M.
America, get out of here! You and that damn America.
And it's perfect for the 4th.
Yeah, it's perfect for the 4th.
America.
So 3 kids: Merrick, Christian, and Dwayne. Boy, Dwayne's just one of them. Dwayne, I picture. No offense to any Dwaynes out there in the world, but I picture, you know, mullet riding around in like a 1970s Plymouth or something like that.
Giant beard.
White
beard. It's like, and it's shaped like this.
Comes into like a point.
Yes.
To, you know, Barbara, Richard presented himself as a hardworking businessman. He claimed to buy and sell merchandise, negotiate deals, and travel frequently for work.
Mm-hmm.
The money he brought in helped support, you know, comfortable middle-class lifestyle. The family lived in a quiet neighborhood, suburban, where children rode bicycles and neighbors greeted everybody from their front lawns. From the outside, they all looked like the picture of a American dream. But behind the closed front door of their home, American dream was, you know, it was beginning to crack. Barbara would later describe Richard as a man whose moods could change like that. Some days he was affectionate, playful, devoted towards his kids. Other days, he was disagreeing for, like, you know, minor things, and anything could, you know, trigger him. She had recalled that she learned to read his expressions carefully, recognizing changes, subtle ones, that warned her that an outburst might be coming. Years later, after Richard's Richard. Oh, the name Merrick translate to fame and power or rule of the sea. Huh.
That's cool.
Thank you,
Ruler of the
David.
sea.
David, I think I'm gonna be nice to you now and not call you distribution, whatever the hell I used to call you. I'm gonna call you
man.
David. David, aka Google. So, anyways,
He's our verifier for us.
Barbara had mentioned that she never truly knew what her husband did for a, living. She knew that he traveled frequently, sometimes disappearing for days. He, always seemed to have cash, yet his, reasons for where it came from and stuff were very vague. Looking back, she said she would say she believed she had spent years living with a stranger. So I couldn't even imagine. That would drive me nuts if you disappear for days and you have no clue where. And it's like, what?
Mm-hmm. And you come back with a ton of money.
Yeah, bunch of money, and it's like, okay, either, gambling and he's really good and always wins, or something's else going on here.
Right. One of the most fascinating and disturbing aspects of Richard's story is his ability to help me.
This is for you guys giving me shit now.
What was that word?
Compartmentalize.
Thank you. Compartmentalize his life. Investigators who interviewed his family found that his children remembered camping trips, vacations, birthdays, and holidays. Richard taught them to fish, coached them through life's challenges, and could be warm and loving. Those memories were real, but so were the memories of terrifying rage. Barbara described incidences where Richard allegedly became physically abusive, punching holes in walls, threatening violence, and using intimidation to control the household. The children learned to recognize the signs that their father's temper was escalating. This duality would become one of the defining characteristics of Richard. To his family, he could be protective. To investigators, he was capable of extraordinary violence. Those two realities existed simultaneously.
So long before Richard was ever linked to a murder, he was already established within Jersey's criminal underworld. Okay. Well, that just happened on my screen. Sorry about that. Computer felt it wanted to be a part of everything. So,
technical difficulty for a second.
Unlike the dramatic portrayals even seen in films, organized crime wasn't built on spectacular heists or high-profile assassinations. Much of it revolved around businesses that generated a large profit while they were actually running business outside the law. Stolen merchandise, illegal, wow, I am drawing blanks today. Anyways.
Illegal gambling?
Yes. Counterfeit goods, pornography. Wow, they had porn back then?
Yes.
That what is that?
They were like showing their ankles.
Yeah, right? Like flapper girls or something?
Yeah, the knees.
Nah,
That's crazy.
Yeah. That was like 30 or something like that. I would assume around 50, 60 they probably had some stuff.
Wow. Loan sharking, hijacked truckloads of consumer products. These crimes generated millions every year. Court records, they had reported that Richard became involved in several of these criminal situations during the 1960s and 1970s. One documented of his criminal activity involved the production of distribution of pirated porn, which at that time generated a large amount of, profit. Wow, that's crazy. I'm still blown away that they had that back then.
It's probably hard to get your hands on because it probably wasn't that common. I mean,
yeah.
You weren't going online. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, true. That's true. Yeah, it was probably all papers and
magazines and
stuff
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
They were silent.
Investigators also connected him to theft rings that specialized in stealing merchandise, particularly consumer electronics, which that doesn't surprise me. That's, always been a hot thing there. Other goods that could quickly be resold. While later documentaries often portray Richard as a, contract killer, which that's new. I never heard of it put that way before. Mafia is what I'm assuming.
It's like
That's
a
just what
hitman.
yeah.
You know what's funny? Like, honest to God, if you were to go back in time and you were to go into an electronics store in the 60s or 70s, what do you buy?
A
Yeah.
VCR?
I don't even know if they had
I didn't know
VCRs
they
yet.
had VCRs.
Maybe
Maybe
8 tracks or something.
8 tracks, or maybe a large TV that's built into a large wooden structure.
God. Yeah.
Remember those frickin'
Oh my gosh, those TVs.
damn
I
thing
hated
weighed
that.
as much as a Volkswagen.
I'm pretty sure my grandfather had one of those, and it wasn't like one of those surround sound thingies, the entertainment stand that had they rolled out the side doors that opened.
Yep.
Yeah, or
I
like
remember
a
that.
frickin' radio that's like, the size of a fridge.
Oh yeah.
Let's see.
I threw
My
it
turn.
off.
Yes. That's okay.
This is an important distinction. The popular image of Richard is that of a full-time hitman. But investigators found evidence that he spent years making money through a variety of criminal schemes. That doesn't make his crimes any less serious. It simply paints a more accurate picture. In interviews conducted after his arrest, Kuklinski claimed that these businesses introduced him to members of organized crime families in New York. He specifically alleged relationships with figures connected to Gambino and help?
Oh yeah, that's
What in the world is that?
That is an Italian name, definitely.
De Cavalcanti?
Okay, you pronounce that word again.
Just call him D.
Yeah, D. De Cavalcanti.
Thank you, crime families. However, historians and law enforcement officials remain divided on the extent of those connections. Some investigators believed he occasionally worked alongside organized crime associates. Others argued he exaggerated those relationships to enhance his own reputation after his arrest. The reality likely falls somewhere in between. There is evidence placing him in criminal circles where mafia associates operated, but many of the dramatic stories he later told, claiming to have carried out dozens of contract killings for famous mob bosses, have never been independently corroborated. I can say that word, but I can't say the other one.
Regardless of whether every story Richard told was true, one fact emerges consistently from investigators who encountered him. Published pornography was invented in 1524 in Rome. Wow.
It was probably pretty crappy, though, like carved into stone.
Yeah, it's really heavy.
Google, thank you.
There you go. Check out this chick carved into this rock.
Oh, that's...
Oh, he had an extraordinary capacity for violence. People who crossed him often disappeared from his life entirely. Business disputes, you guys are sick, were settled throughout intimidation. Fights that he had rarely ended peacefully. Those who knew him described him as a man who seemed capable of switching emotions almost instantly. He could laugh during one talk and become frighteningly calm during the next. I don't even want to know. Psychologists who later evaluated Kuklinski noted that his emotional responses often appeared detached from suffering of others, but they also cautioned against reducing his behavior to simple diagnosis. Human beings are rarely that straightforward.
As Richard's criminal activities expanded, so did his confidence. He became increasingly comfortable operating outside the law. According to investigators, he developed relationships with fences who purchased stolen merchandise, middlemen who connected criminals with buyers, and individuals already known to law enforcement. These weren't Hollywood gangsters meeting in smoke-filled backrooms. They were a network of criminal conducting business across New Jersey and New York, often blending into ordinary neighborhoods. It was in these circles that investigators believe Richard's life became increasingly dangerous. Whether motivated by money, revenge, or self-preservation, violence has become an accepted part of doing business. And eventually, that violence would escalate into murder.
After his arrest, Richard claimed he had mastered virtually every method of killing. He spoke about firearms, knives, poison, blunt force trauma, crossbows, even cyanide. He said he preferred whatever method would accomplish the job efficiently.
What
Well, at
about-
least we know he's a good worker.
What about nunchucks?
Nunchucks, yeah. Well,
Or
that's
Japanese throwing
Chuck
stars.
Norris.
Or
so.
throwing stars?
These interviews became the foundation of who he was. The calm voice, the emotionless delivery, the chilling confidence, but investigators urge caution. While Richard was convicted of multiple murders, many of the killings he described during television interviews have never been linked to him through physical evidence, witness testimony, or court proceedings. Some claims sorry, I thought there was a new comment up there. Squirrel. So anyway. Okay, guys. That doesn't mean every confession was false. It means separating documented fact from personal storytelling is essential. I wonder if we should show the clip since we're kind of in on all that right now.
Well, yeah, let me get into how he got his nickname because then it'll make really good sense with this.
Hey, that makes sense.
So we're moving into that now.
Sense making.
Perhaps
That's what we do.
no nickname demonstrates that better than the Iceman. According to prosecutors, the nickname originated because one victim's body had been stored in a freezer before being abandoned, making it difficult for investigators to estimate the exact time of death. The frozen remains complicated the investigation, and eventually the press adopted the name the Iceman. It was memorable. It was terrifying. And over time, it became inseparable from Richard Kuklinski himself. The nickname transformed him from a convicted murderer into a larger-than-life figure in American true crime. But behind the chilling title was a real criminal investigation, one that would eventually expose a series of murders detectives had spent years trying to solve. And the break in the case would come from an undercover operation unlike any Richard had faced before.
So we're going to play one of these clips that investigate. Well, I don't even know if it was investigator. I think it was just true crime documentary. People, they went in and they talked to him, a few times. And it's, couple minutes long, but listen to this because these two parts that I wanted to pick out are, this will give you chills. This is wild to hear what he has to say.
The confidence in this guy. I mean, honestly, like I always said, like, how do you know if somebody in a room can fight? It's the guy that's not yelling and screaming and acting absurd or anything and is overly calm. That's the one you got to be afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in this case, it definitely rings true.
So here is a interview with Richard here. And we'll go ahead and play it for you right now.
Would you ever use a chainsaw?
To cut someone up? Yes. I've done that. To dismember them, yes. Not to kill them, no.
What was it like to cut somebody up with a even though the guy was dead, how did it feel to cut some guy up with a chainsaw?
I didn't have any feeling one way or the other. That just happened. That's the way it had to be.
Messy.
Yes. Yes, it was.
Did it make you sick?
No. I've had requests where the guy wanted the guy's tongue cut out. And he also wanted his tongue put in his rear end. So I believe there was a definite point he wanted to get across. I have an experience that I don't know if I should tell you or not. That it probably would offend a lot of people. I don't know. I don't think I should. I'll go into that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not a good one.
No, go ahead. Tell him.
It was a man, he was begging and pleading and praying, I guess. And he was pleased God and all over the place. So I told him he could have a half hour to pray to God. And if God could come down and change the circumstances, he'd have that time. But God never showed up. And he never changed the circumstances. And that was that.
So yeah, you can just see, I mean, that story is wild. That he was like, I'll give you 30 minutes. And if God comes down here, then he could change.
Yeah, if he
things.
intervenes, then yeah, we'll let you go. But otherwise, yeah.
Jeez.
Do you want me to take this next section because it's really long, and then you can take the other one? We'll flip it this time.
Sure, that's fine. It don't matter. Whatever.
By the early 1980s, investigators throughout New Jersey had begun noticing something unsettling. Several homicide cases, seemingly unrelated on the surface, shared subtle similarities. The victims often had criminal backgrounds or connections to illegal businesses. Some had been reported missing for months before their bodies were discovered. Others simply vanished without explanation. At first, there was no obvious reason to believe the murders were connected. Different help.
Thank God you took this.
Oh my goodness, jurisdictions, man.
Handled different investigations. Different detectives worked different cases. The victims came from different walks of life, but as investigators compared notes, a pattern slowly began to emerge. The same names surfaced repeatedly. The same criminal circles, the same associates. And somewhere within that network, detectives believed there was someone eliminating people with a remarkable efficiency. At the time, Richard Kuklinski was not yet a household name. In fact, most people had never heard of him. He wasn't appearing on television, he wasn't making headlines, and he wasn't even considered one of law enforcement's highest priorities. Instead, he continued living what appeared to be an ordinary suburban life. He drove home to Dumont, New Jersey. He attended family gatherings. He helped his children with everyday life. To his neighbors, he remained the quiet man living down the street. No one suspected investigators were slowly beginning to close in.
One of the challenges detectives faced was the nature of the victims themselves. Many had criminal records. Some were involved in crime before. Others actually operated in illegal businesses where violence was, expected. That meant witnesses were often unwilling to cooperate. People feared that. They feared that if they spoke out, then of course retaliation's going to happen.
Oh, hell yeah, back then you didn't have a whole lot of protection either. What are they going to put you into a program that didn't exist?
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't even know if one did, but I doubt it.
A program that didn't exist. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. We got to get that put on a shirt. So, oh yeah. Some simply disappeared themselves before investigators could question them. Others followed the criminal world's unwritten rule: never talk to the police. Homicide detectives, these cases became frustrating puzzles. Without any cooperative witnesses, evidence became more important. Fingerprints, every shell casing, fiber, phone record, every financial transaction. Investigators understood they weren't just looking for one killer. They were trying to dismantle an entire network of criminal activity.
I don't even know what the hell you do with half of that stuff if you found it, like fibers and things like that.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
I mean, you look at it up close and try to determine if you could match it up, like with eyesight, to another item. But
Yeah, I
you
don't
know,
know how they would do that then.
It wouldn't be the
yeah.
same as it is now.
But yeah, nobody
No.
would call it. I mean, you had back then. Everybody was divided into like in nationalities and things were divided into neighborhoods. You had Irish neighborhoods, Italian neighborhoods, and these
Yeah.
people didn't call the cops. Nobody was calling the cops if they heard a gunshot.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
it's not like it is now. Yeah.
no.
One of the most significant cases involved a man named Louis Mazgay. Mazgay wasn't an innocent bystander caught in random violence. He was involved in criminal enterprises and had connections with New Jersey's underworld. In 1981, Mazgay disappeared. Months passed without, answers at all. His family had no idea where he'd gone. Associates offered little information. See, this is why Unsafe has told me to knock off the coffee so much. This is it. This is it. Unsafe, you were right. Need to calm down on the fucking coffee.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, so eventually investigators made is that grim?
Yes.
Okay, grim finding. Mazgay's body was found inside a 55-gallon steel drum. His remains had been hidden for months. They had determined he had been murdered, though the condition of the body made certain aspects of the investigation difficult. Years later, prosecutors would, oh God, this word, allege, right?
Yes.
Yay, no horn, even though the horn's been dead for months. Alleged that Richard had killed Mazgay during a dispute involving money and criminal business dealings. According to the prosecution's case, Richard believed Mazgay had cheated him financially. Rather than resolving the conflict through negotiation, prosecutors argued that he chose murder. So the body hidden inside the drum became one of the first major pieces connecting Richard to multiple homicide investigations.
When detectives reconstructed the timeline, they found something striking. Richard Kuklinski had interacted with Mazgay shortly before his disappearance. Witnesses placed the two men together. Business records and testimony began connecting Kuklinski to individuals already under investigation. Little by little, detectives started seeing Richard not merely as an associate of violent crimes, but as someone who might actually be responsible for several murders himself. Still, suspicion isn't enough for an arrest, and investigators needed more proof. At that point, they didn't have it.
As detectives revisited old files, additional names came up. They came into the whole, investigation. George, I'm just going to call him M.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Hoffman, Gary Smith, Daniel D. Each presented its own challenges, different crime scenes, different circumstances, methods. Prosecutors later argued that these murders shared one common demeanor, Richard. Importantly, these were not random victims selected without any reason why. Investigators had believed each killing stemmed from criminal disputes, unpaid debts, or fears that someone might expose Richard's activities. Unlike many serial killers who target strangers, prosecutors said that Richard's victims were often people that he knew. Business partners, associates, people who had become liabilities. Let's see, distinction would later influence how they understood what he was doing, motives. Rather than killing for like an excitement alone, prosecutors argued many of the murders appeared,
Calculated, practical, transactional, violence became a business tool. That doesn't mean investigators believed Richard lacked emotion entirely. In interviews conducted after his arrest, he often attempted to portray himself as someone capable of switching compassion on and off like a light switch. He claimed he loved his family deeply while feeling almost nothing for his victims. Psychologists who interviewed him found that claim fascinating. Whether genuine or self-serving, it reflected the image Kuklinski wanted the world to see. Someone capable of compartmentalizing his life so completely that murder never followed him home. But detectives remained skeptical. They knew criminals often shape narratives that make themselves appear more extraordinary. Their job wasn't to analyze Richard's stories. Their job was to prove murders beyond a reasonable doubt. And proving those murders would require something far more powerful than a confession. They needed Richard to incriminate himself without realizing it.
In 1980, in 1985, investigators made a decision that would ultimately change the course of the case. Rather than waiting for a witness to come forward, they decided to go directly to Richard. Not as cops, not as search warrants, not through like an, interrogation. Instead, they would send someone undercover. That responsibility fell to, oh God.
Just call him Dominic.
Yeah. Dominic P. We'll go with that because that's a last name there. A veteran investigator of the New Jersey Division of Criminal Justice. P had extensive experience working undercover. He understood the patience required to infiltrate criminal circles. He also understood one critical rule: trust cannot be rushed. It has to be earned. Over the coming months, P carefully created an entirely new identity. He portrayed himself as a fellow criminal interested in purchasing illegal materials and eventually hiring someone capable of committing murder. Every conversation was planned, every meeting documented, every interaction was designed to, answer one question. Would Richard reveal who he really was when he believed no police were listening?
What followed became one of the most significant undercover homicide investigations in New Jersey history. For more than a year, Detective P, we're all just children, slowly gained Richard's confidence. There was no dramatic confrontations, no sudden breakthroughs. Instead, investigators relied on patience. Meeting after meeting, conversation after conversation. Hidden recording devices captured discussions that prosecutors would later present in court. Richard didn't know it, but with every passing month, the walls around him were slowly closing
in. The undercover operation now we're going to dive into. By late 1985, Detective Dominic P. had spent months earning Richard's trust. It wasn't glamorous police work. There were no dramatic foot chases or anything like that. Excuse me. Damn coffee. Instead, it was built on patience. Every meeting was carefully planned. Every time that they met was recorded. Every word mattered. P had, introduced himself as someone involved in crime, someone who could provide opportunities for money and work. Richard appeared comfortable. The talks they had become increasingly candid, right?
Yep.
Yes, and investigators, they believed they were watching a dangerous man lower his guard. So as their relationship developed more, P slowly steered his discussions towards Richard's favorite thing, violence. Not directly. Instead, he allowed Richard to talk. Experienced undercover investigators understand that people often reveal more when they believe they're in control of the talk. I think, Chris, you've talked about that before too, and I've watched a lot of different videos where they are meeting with criminals and stuff like that, and they do, when they feel they're in control of the whole thing,
Right, or they're comfortable.
yeah,
Then they start, getting to talk, and that's why, like, we were watching one, the good cop, bad cop
oh
thing,
yeah,
where a guy tries to induce stress, and then the other guy pretends to be his buddy, and
yeah,
allow him to kind of control the situation, and then they get to speaking because they develop that comfort level.
yeah.
You know,
It's crazy to me how much goes into those, and the things you can learn from reading people's language, the body,
Yeah.
language and stuff like that. Stuff that I didn't realize. And then watching like a lot of them now that I do on like my spare time, it's really crazy when they break it down how you can see like if they're getting nervous or they're leaning away from the,
the person that's speaking 'em,
detective
yeah.
or things like that. Or they
Right.
said if they have their arms crossed, then they're, guarding
Themselves
and stuff
right.
like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
See, I would forget a lot of that if I was a detective and I'd get in there and I'd forget a lot of that. And the guy in there with me would be like, dude, didn't you catch half the shit he was doing? No, I really didn't.
Oh, I love that. I love that kind of shit. I mean, even when I would hire people in the past or anything like that, or people that have worked for me or with me, like, I always looked at their body language when they came in to talk, even customers and that kind of thing. When I interact
Oh, really?
with them, I watch their body language because it'll tell you a lot
Huh.
without them even having to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can steer the conversations in certain directions. It's like the undercover, like, I don't know, crafty sales method that
Yeah. That's
the
crazy.
real good ones use.
It's the easiest way to tell,
Yeah.
like, in my side, if like the body language thing, if I'm gonna be able to get sales out of
Oh,
somebody,
you're gonna, yeah.
or if I'm gonna, or it's just a day, don't even try.
But it's
Gotcha.
amazing how much laughter takes place in those interrogation rooms. I think it's like probably 30% laughter because all these people are laughing and chuckling when they're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. Like the one lady.
like that cackler. Yeah.
Oh my god,
Oh
one
my
last
goodness.
thing.
Yeah.
So Richard spoke confidently about weapons. He discussed disposing of bodies. He described different methods of killing, with a calm, like you saw in that, video clip that we showed there, how calm that he was there. And, some of these talks included claims that would never be, independently verified. Detectives they didn't care about his stories. They didn't care so much about those. They wanted proof of a crime that would prove beyond, reasonable doubt that it was him.
Eventually, Detective P introduced what investigators believed would be the ultimate test. He told Richard there was a problem. Oh, excuse me.
What is happening over here?
Broccoli.
Oh my God! Don't talk about.
Detective P introduced what investigators believe.
I'm waving to the wall again.
Just making shadow figures over there.
Would be the ultimate test.
Yeah, dinosaur.
Yeah.
Can you tell that the heat has gotten to us this week?
Yeah, it definitely has. But that's okay, though. It makes us different. We stand out above every other criminal, above every other true crime show.
That's why we're in the top 25% creators.
A little kooky, yeah.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Right? He told Richard there was a problem. A man needed to disappear. He asked if Richard would be willing to handle it. According to prosecutors, Richard didn't respond with shock. He didn't ask why. He didn't question whether it was a joke. Instead, investigators said he treated the proposal like a business transaction. The two men discussed the logistics, payment, timing, how the killing would be carried out. Hidden recording devices captured portions of these conversations, providing prosecutors with evidence they believed demonstrated Richard's willingness to commit another murder for money. For investigators who had spent years trying to connect Kuklinski to unsolved homicides, it was a pivotal moment. But the operation wasn't over. Detectives wanted to strengthen their case even further.
One topic came up repeatedly during the undercover investigation: poison, specifically cyanide. Richard spoke about cyanide as though it were simply a tool. He discussed his effectiveness and how difficult it could be for investigators to detect under certain circumstances. It's important to note that many of Richard's broader claims about using poison in previous murders had remained disputed and have never been conclusively proven. However, during the undercover investigation, prosecutors alleged that Richard actively sought to obtain cyanide in connection with the planned murder for hire. The distinction is important. The investigation wasn't relying solely on stories about past crimes. It focused on Richard's present actions. According to investigators, he demonstrated both the willingness and the intent to obtain poison for future homicide.
The undercover recordings gave detectives something they had lacked for years: context. Instead of relying entirely on witnesses from the criminal underworld, it scared me.
Earthquake.
They now had Richard speaking to his own words. To investigators, those recordings painted the picture of a man who approached murder with chilling practicality. There was no bravado, no dramatic speeches, no obvious remorse, just discussion, almost as if he were negotiating any other business deal. These conversations would later become a critical part of the prosecution's case.
On December 13th. No, I'm just kidding. On December 17th, 1986, after more than a year of undercover work, law enforcement moved in. Richard was arrested. Operation involved investigators from multiple agencies, all working together to ensure he couldn't escape. 4 detectives who had dedicated years to the investigation, it marked the accumulation of an extraordinary effort. The quiet suburban husband who had spent decades avoiding accountability was finally in police custody. News of the arrest spread quickly. At first, many people struggled to believe it. Neighbors described Richard as polite, and he was a reserved family man. The allegation seemed almost impossible to reconcile with the person they believed that they knew, but investigators were confident that they had evidence that they needed, and that they were only beginning to uncover the full scope of Richard's criminal activities.
Imagine what the day was like for Barbara Kuklinski. For 25 years, she had lived with Richard, raised children with him, celebrated birthdays, shared holidays, built a life together. Now police were accusing her husband of being responsible for multiple murders. Barbara would later say that she felt as though her entire life had collapsed in a single moment. She acknowledged Richard was violent. She'd experienced his temper firsthand, but murder? Multiple murders? She insisted she never knew. To this day, investigators remain divided over how much Barbara may or may not have been suspected. There has never been evidence that she participated in Richard's crimes, and she was never charged with any wrongdoing. The evidence pointed squarely at Richard, not his family.
So, following Richard's arrest, investigators began assembling one of the most complex homicide prosecutions in New Jersey history. The case wasn't built around a single confession, nor did it rely on one eyewitness. Instead, prosecutors assembled a
mosaic
of evidence: witness testimony from criminal associates, Physical evidence recovered during multiple investigations, recorded conversations from the undercover operation, financial records, telephone records, forensic examinations. Each piece by itself might not have been enough. Together, prosecutors argued they revealed a consistent pattern, a man who used violence to eliminate perceived problems, a man who believed intimidation was often more effective than negotiation, a man who had spent years believing he would never be caught.
As detectives revisited cold case files, they continued strengthening their homicide prosecutions.
Wow.
Each murder required its own evidence, its own witnesses, its own timeline. Unlike television dramas, homicide investigations don't wrap up neatly in an hour. They often take years, sometimes decades. Every piece of evidence has to survive intense scrutiny from defense attorneys. Every witness must withstand cross-examination, and every forensic conclusion must be supported by science. Prosecutors knew Richard was simply facing public opinion. He was facing a courtroom, and in a courtroom, evidence matters more than reputation.
The legend of the Iceman was beginning to spread throughout newspapers, but inside the courtroom, legends carried no weight. Only facts did, and soon 12 jurors would be asked to decide whether the evidence proved Richard Kuklinski was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. By the time Richard Kuklinski entered the courtroom in 1988, the year I was born, his name had already begun circulating throughout New Jersey. Newspapers described him as an alleged contract killer. Television stations covered every development. Reporters packed the courtrooms, hoping to witness one of the state's most significant murder trials in decades. But despite the growing media attention, prosecutors knew that they couldn't ask a juror to convict Richard Kuklinski based on headlines. They had to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. One witness at a time, one exhibit at a time, one fact at a time. Unlike many of the stories that would later surround Kuklinski, this trial wasn't about rumors of hundreds of murders or alleged mafia legends. It centered on murders prosecutors believed that could prove through physical evidence, witness testimony, and recorded conversations. The prosecution presented Richard not as an impulsive killer, but as a calculated businessman who viewed murder as another solution to a problem. If someone owed him money, if someone becomes a liability, if someone threatened his criminal operation, prosecutors argued that Richard removed them permanently. See what happens when we talk court? I get excited.
You focus really well, too.
Yeah, court.
yeah, court. Give it hell, Ken.
I don't even know what to think right now. Throughout the trial, jurors heard testimony from investigators who had spent years piecing together the case. They described painstakingly revisiting cold case files, comparing evidence,
jurisdictions.
Thank you. And following connections that at first seemed insignificant. Detectives explained how victims who appeared unrelated were actually connected through criminal enterprises. Jurors learned about the undercover investigation that ultimately led to Richard's arrest. They heard portions of recorded conversations involving Detective Dominic P. Those recordings became some of the most compelling evidence presented by prosecutors. Unlike secondhand testimony, jurors were able to hear Richard's own voice. The calmness, the confidence, the apparent willingness to discuss murder as if it were another day's work. For many observers, those recordings were chilling, not because Richard raised his voice or threatened anyone dramatically, but because he didn't. There was an unsettling absence of emotion.
The prosecution also relied heavily on forensic evidence and witness testimony. No homicide case is built on a single piece of evidence. Instead, prosecutors weave together dozens, sometimes hundreds, of facts into cohesive narrative. Witnesses testified about Richard's movements before and after the murders. Investigators presented evidence trying him to victims shortly after they disappeared. Jurors saw photographs from crime scenes. They reviewed financial records. They listened as detectives explained how years of investigative work had gradually revealed patterns connecting multiple murders. Perhaps most importantly, prosecutors demonstrated that these were not random acts of violence. Each victim had crossed paths with Richard in some meaningful way. Business disputes, money, criminal partnerships gone wrong. The prosecution argued there was motive, opportunity, and increasingly evidence.
The defense challenged virtually every aspect of the prosecution's case. Richard's attorney
I gotta
questioned
use the restroom.
Okay. Richard's attorney questioned the credibility of government witnesses. Many had criminal backgrounds of their own. Others had entered agreements with prosecutors in exchange for testimony. The defense argued that these witnesses had powerful incentives to shift blame. They also attacked the undercover investigation, suggesting Richard has exaggerated his criminal persona to impress someone he believed was another career criminal. It was a strategy designed to create reasonable doubt. After all, boasting about crimes, even horrific ones, is not the same as committing them. The jury would ultimately have to decide whether the totality of the evidence proved Richard Kuklinski guilty.
I'm gonna become Tim now. I just made myself a little more vertical here so that I could. Anyway, after weeks of testimony, the case went to the jury. For prosecutors, years of investigation now rested in the hands of 12 ordinary citizens. For the victims' families, it was a moment filled with anticipation and anxiety. For Richard Kuklinski, it was the first time in decades that his future was no longer under his control. After deliberation, the jury returned with its verdict: guilty. Richard was convicted of multiple murders. In March of 1988, he was sentenced to multiple consecutive life sentences, ensuring he would spend the remainder of his life behind bars. For investigators who had dedicated years to this case, the verdict represented more than a conviction. It was a validation, proof that careful investigation work, patience, and persistence had finally brought one of the New Jersey's most dangerous criminals to justice.
Most convicted killers disappear from public attention after sentencing. Richard Kuklinski was different in many ways. His notoriety was just beginning. Over the next 2 decades, journalists, authors, psychologists, and documentary filmmakers would seek him out inside prison. They wanted answers. Why did he kill? How many people had he really murdered? Did he feel remorse? And perhaps the biggest question of all, was Richard Kuklinski telling the truth?
While incarcerated at Trenton State Prison, Richard Kuklinski sat down for numerous interviews. Among the most famous were those produced by HBO. The public was captivated. He was a convicted murderer speaking calmly, almost conversationally, about killing. He described methods, alleged victims, organized crimes. He claimed to have murdered well over 100 people. In some interviews, he suggested that the number could be closer to 200. These interviews transformed Richard Kuklinski into one of America's most recognizable convicted killers, but they also sparked immediate controversy.
Many investigators believe Richard was mixing truth with fiction. There is little doubt he was a murderer. The courts established that. But historians, journalists, and law enforcement officials have spent decades examining his broader claims. Some simply don't withstand scrutiny. Richard claimed involvement in murders that occurred while evidence placed him elsewhere. He claimed close relationships with organized crime figures who were never shown to have worked with him in the way he described. He suggested involvement in famous mafia killings that investigators had already solved using other evidence. Some detectives believed Richard exaggerated because he enjoys the attention. Others believed he inserted himself into notorious crimes to build his own legend. That doesn't mean every confession was false. It means they require careful examination. The Richard Kuklinski who appeared in documentaries wasn't necessarily the same prosecutors proved in court. We're in the final
Gonna
years.
take off the final years of Richard K.
Yes. Thank you, Criminology Chris, for filling in.
I'm here for you.
Had to use the facilities and check on my kid. Richard Kuklinski remained incarcerated for the rest of his life. In prison, he continued granting interviews, meeting with psychologists, and speaking with authors interested in understanding his mind. He maintained relationships with some members of his family, though these relationships were often strained. Barbara eventually had divorced him. his children struggled to reconcile that their father, they remembered with the crimes for which he had been convicted. On March 5th, 2006, Richard Kuklinski died at the age of 70 after years of declining health. He died inside St. Francis Medical Center while still serving his life sentences. He never walked free again.
Cases like this challenge us because they exist somewhere between documented history and carefully constructed myth. Richard Kuklinski absolutely committed murders. He devastated families. He destroyed lives. Those facts are beyond dispute. But much of what made him famous came from stories he told after his conviction. Stories that investigators have spent years attempting to verify. Some held up, many did not.
Perhaps that's why Richard Kuklinski continues to fascinate people. It likes him.
Yeah.
It does every time. Not because he was larger than life, but because he wanted to be. The truth is already horrifying enough. A man capable of maintaining the appearance of an ordinary father while committing multiple murders is disturbing without embellishment. Evidence presented in court tells you a compelling story on its own. One of deception, violence, patience, and ultimately justice. So thank you for hanging in there with us on this Iceman, Mr. Richard Kuklinski story. This one was, it was wild, you know. It is different. I happened to come across this one, I think. I don't remember how.
It was pretty interesting. I mean, as far as we could probably talk miles about just the conversations people had with this guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And there's all kinds. He had, cyanide, as they talked about. There was interviewed in that same clip that I showed back in the beginning of it. Cyanide. He was talking about how he did it and how he used it for every
food and that sort of thing. And it was creative. I mean, not only because it was harder to trace. And they said it was harder to trace than strychnine. Well, it was more powerful or more potent. I guess you're more likely to die than a strychnine poisoning or something else. I don't remember what the hell the other one was.
Yeah.
But
arsenic?
Yeah, it might have been arsenic.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but he's crafty with it, putting it in people's drinks, put it in their food, and I guess didn't he mention something about like putting it on, like dumping it on some guy's leg, like a drink full of cyanide.
Yep.
And it absorbed it into his pores, and it would kill you through absorbing it through your skin.
That's wild.
And, you had to have no idea that it ever even happened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep.
You just go home, think you got a beer spilt on you. And
yeah. You don't think nothing else of it.
You go to sleep and you don't wake up.
That's wild. But thank you, everybody, for listening in tonight. We do appreciate it. We do appreciate all the support and everything that you guys always do. Show the show. Okay, we'll go with that. Anyways,
all the love you show our show.
Yes, all the love that you do show our show. We do appreciate it. Am I randomly getting people trying to call? Okay.
Sorts of things are happening.
Yeah, right. But anyways, we will be back here. Well, I'll be here next week. Criminology Chris and Classroom Jackie will not. So I will be here with you guys, and I'll figure out throughout the week who I'm going to be covering. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your 4th of July and your weekend.
You never know what happens.
True. Things and stuff do happen.
Depends on what time I get done.
Yeah, you never know.
Have a good night, David. Cake Maker, have a good night. You guys take care.
Bye, guys.
And we will see you next week. Good night, everyone.
Same crime time, same crime place.
Good night.